Sabian symbols in relationships. We can find a use for the Sabian symbols in the way to understand your partner or any other person with whom you've got a close connection. And this deeper insight can help you get to the core of what the relationship is actually about. So we can look at perhaps three different aspects of this study of a relationship. Now, in the first case, we can look at the horoscopes, or if you don't have the ability to do a horoscope, you can get the information online. And we see the Sabian symbols set that is the partners. And these can be studied very slowly, very carefully. The Sabian symbols do not reveal themselves at first glance. It's not that kind of thing. What we're looking for is a deep wisdom, a deep knowledge, a subtle understanding. So that requires that we find that zone of subtlety and depth within ourselves. And the written word has been designed over the centuries and millennia to do that. Certain messages that happen today are very brief, and it's all to do with conveying a lot of simple information very quickly. Whereas reading, in this sort of sense of reading a book and immersing yourself in the mood and the atmosphere of the book, this calls up a different quality of attention within ourselves. So I'm suggesting that we give that quality of attention to the text on the Sabian symbols of the partner. That's the first stage. And doing that with awareness that they have that you're doing it. In other words, they know that you're studying their horoscope, their Sabian symbol set. And if you give that quality of attention to another person, it makes a big difference on the type of relationship that you have. Just by studying someone's Sabian symbols, you're giving them a lot of special attention. Now, the second stage is to try and find an explanation in their life circumstances for the meaning within the Sabian symbol. If the Sabian symbol is about a teacher, then perhaps they have a role as a teacher in some club or association or what have you. Or if the Sabian symbol is about spiritual practice, you can suggest, well, that you haven't done that yet. I mean, perhaps you ought to try doing that and see if that suits you, see if you like that. You know, you can put ideas into their heads. And sometimes one word, one simple idea can change somebody's life. These Sabian symbols are very powerful. And if we find a correlation in some way between their life situations and their Sabian symbols, not only have you understood your partner better, which they love that deeper understanding, but also your partner has understood themselves better. And so they kind of grow into what was previously only potential. And if you actually engineer that level of shift between each of you does that to each other, the partnership becomes more than the sum of the parts. Synergy is gained. And each of you is aware that you wouldn't be who you are today but for your partner. And that becomes much more obvious when the depth of understanding through Sabian symbols is found. Now, of course, they can do the same for you, or at least you can study your Sabian symbols by discussing it with them. So you can say, look, I've got this Sabian symbol. What do you think that looks like? I mean, how does that show in my life? And they'll give you an interpretation. Of this, you may be sure that their interpretation is not the same as yours. And their insight into your personality is different from your own self-awareness. And this is of crucial importance. You get a whole new perspective on yourself when you discuss it in this kind of detail. Typically, if you ask somebody, well, what do you think of me? Oh, yeah, you're all right. I like you. You know, there's just no detail there. But if you say, listen, this is my Sabian symbol. How does that translate into my life situation? Then you have a very specific question to ask, and you get a very specific answer. And because that answer requires a high level of detailed attention, that's the kind of attention that you get. And once again, we have this mystery where detailed, laser-sharp, focused attention is like a lightning strike that revitalizes the earth. So the light of somebody's sharp concentration upon you awakens potential. It sort of breaks open a seed of potential. And so you can actually realize more of your own potential. Now, there is a third factor that we can look at, because there's a calculator on the website, and I'll put the link in the description as well. In this calculator, you can see which two particular Sabian symbols, one of yours, one of theirs, which pairing up of Sabian symbols is the most poignant, is the most important within the relationship. Now, this gives a whole different take on the nature of the relationship. Sometimes you just meet somebody, you like hanging out with them, you're attracted to them, you talk, you're comfortable together, or excited together, adventurous, whatever is important for you, and you create a relationship from that. Only to find, after the months and perhaps years pass, that the initial idea that you had about the kind of relationship you might want was not the whole picture. It might even have been wrong. But what actually comes to pass is something much deeper, much more significant on the level of soul. And that's what we're looking for and looking at in this partnership Sabian symbol connection. So if you just try and find out what is your partner's birth time and so on, and you come up with a pairing, then you will see two Sabian symbols which have some greater importance for you. And you need to find out how they relate together in your relationship. Now, I've done a few examples of people that I've known in the past and compared my Sabian symbols to theirs. In one case, the person's Saturn, a man who had a great deal of influence in establishing me as a workshop leader at one point, and his Saturn was in a position of Taurus 20, the wisps of cloud, and this suggests a spiritual wisdom that's very subtle indeed. Spiritual forces all around that they have sort of intuition for. And so this man was able to grasp those spiritual forces and in Saturn terms, give them a shape, give them a boundary, a control, a statement, what they are, bring them into the physical sense of a word. And by doing that, I was able to understand how better to teach. And so that man empowered me as a teacher, as a workshop leader. Now, in another case, a woman I was involved with had a Capricorn 24. Her Saturn was there, actually. Now, this is all to do with spiritual expression and dedication to that. It's a convent, that kind of idea. And her Saturn was there, so she had some reluctance at first to discipline herself into that way of being a spiritual person and doing practice every day and so on. But it connected with my moon. My moon is an old Indian woman who just finds it very easy to be, and she represents an elder. So in fact, this woman was younger than me, and she looked up to me as somebody who'd gone ahead of her on her spiritual journey. And so I was able to be an elder for her and encourage her to get to her disciplines and do the spiritual work she needed to do. And we were mutually beneficial, mutually helpful in awakening different qualities. So for me, I became an elder. I became an older person with wisdom to give to the younger person in this particular relationship. And she became the diligent student that would look up to the elder and do her practices and so on. And this was actually the most important part of our relationship after the years had passed, where both of us actually took on a whole different role in society because of having worked that out together. So that's the kind of thing. Find out what's the most important pairing of Sabian symbols in your relationship and really study it in depth and see if you can get this connection, the deeper reason why the two of you are in partnership together. And like I say, it applies not only to romantic partnerships, but to any partnership arrangement.